Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable, ongoing reality.
Well, hello. I hope I don't lose my voice, but welcome to Transition Radio Show, Real Talk with the Cummings. My name is Mark.
And I'm Lynna. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. We have a really great guest tonight, and all the way from the other side.
Australia. There's like 15 hours. We usually have the show on Sunday, so we had to coordinate our Saturday night with her Sunday early afternoon.
So she's time warped.
Yeah, she's like ahead and time warped. So before we bring her in, we're going to go ahead and just read her little bio there. And I've been watching Courtney for a very, very long time, but tonight we have Courtney Coulson. Courtney is a FTMTF detransitioner, formerly autistic, formerly asexual. She quotes, "I managed to overcome these difficulties by addressing, get this, her autoimmune condition. Her psychological problems were caused by her physical ones."
Courtney Coulson is also a freelance artist from Perth, Western Australia. While costume making is her main passion, she is interested in art of all varieties: painting, drawing, writing, sculpting, modeling, and podcasting, all of which can be found on traviandesigns.com.
She has studied costume design at the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts, and since then has made costumes for theater, drag shows, cosplays, and wedding. And now we're going to bring her right in, and here she is. Hey, Courtney. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm in the future. The planet's still here. That's good.
That's kind of freaky to think of it. It's right. Like it's Saturday, but it's Sunday there, and it's like,
You don't realize how big this planet is until you have to deal with time zones. And if the sun exploded, you wouldn't even know about it for, I think they say 9 minutes. We're very, very small.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. But, I'm very in awe with, I've been doing a little research on you and looking at your website and your designs, and it's like life is art for you. Like I look at your Instagram and the pictures, and you detransition beautifully. If I tried, I've tried 6 times. The hair is never growing back. I'm like, how did she keep her hair?
I don't know. Maybe I jumped ship at the right time. I don't know.
I guess you did. Yeah, I guess because I was.
You're looking good yourself. You're making it work.
Thank you. But
I think so.
Yeah, it's after 20 years of hormones, it's just impossible. I guess it's possible if you want to be the circus lady and whatever, but I just
you basically have to transition into your own sex, and you have to wear wigs and have what do you call laser hair removal, and is it surgeries, and you're basically going through the same process again in reverse.
Yeah, but I have so much body hair because
we did surgery. Not surgery.
Laser.
We did laser.
Tried to, and it's like my hair was going. You think you're gonna
thicker?
I was like, forget this.
It was like resistant.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my god.
It was.
It's like, and then painful. Because it's all over the back, the front, everywhere. I'm like, I can't.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, I just have a little bit here and a little bit on my lips still. And that's about it. Although that reminds me, I need to change my appointment for my laser for tomorrow. I have a job now. Yay. I want to go back to something you were saying about life is art to me. And that's actually a really good way of putting it. Everything I do, everything I consume feeds into my writing or my art in some way. And I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, I'm that person who can't just read a book or watch a movie and go, oh, but this could feed into this other thing, this other project that I don't have time for.
You're very fascinating. And I don't get fascinated by people very easily.
Ah, thank you.
But there's something about you, just even the way you take pictures of yourself and just very artistic. Like I said, your life is art, you know? So I don't know if anybody's ever told you that, but definitely.
It's been so wild. So I detransitioned in October, November, not last year, but the year before. And before that, I've been doing podcasting, reviewing the Alien prequels, Prometheus by minute. So I was reviewing that movie, 1 minute of the movie per episode. I had a bit of an audience. People seemed to enjoy what I was saying. But it really wasn't until I detransitioned and became a more prominent voice in a community that I suddenly had all these people telling me, oh, you're so interesting and you're so smart and you're so articulate. And I went, where were you before I transitioned? Because I think a lot of my insecurities came from no one listened to me. My appearance was all people focused on. And so I just felt like, if I was a man, if I was like my brothers, people wouldn't interrupt me to talk about my appearance. They would actually hear what I had to say or appreciate my accomplishments. And so transitioning, I mean, it got me the results I wanted, just in a very long, convoluted, and roundabout way.
Yeah, I hear that. I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people do transition. They're trying to find their voice, themselves. They feel like they're in the shadows and no one sees them. So transitioning, in their opinion, in their belief, it's going to make life better. It's going to give them a character. It's going to just add life to their lifeless life. It's a I don't know, surrogate replacement for a personality. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Because the majority of us that transition, we were quiet, we having autism or Asperger personality disorders, prefer to be alone, didn't fit well with other people. I used to always tell people I was from Mars. I'm sure you felt the same way. And a lot of the people that I've talked to, I've always been loners. So creating this persona allows you to be safely someone else, and it's like, okay, I could be me.
On the android, I basically made this whole other persona. He had a totally different life and thoughts and feelings, or lack of feelings. And I really did hallucinate and think that I could or was a robot.
Wow. Yeah, I saw some of that stuff back in, because I was going to interview you 2 years ago, and I stopped doing the show for a while because I was sorting myself back out. And that's when I decided I can't keep doing this detransition. And we got back together again. We had split up. But it's an amazing, I don't even know what word to use, an amazing coping mechanism that many of us use, to be able to show our personalities. I want to point out to those in the chat, unless you are respectful, you will be kicked out. And unless you have something constructive to say, not silly stuff, then please don't waste your time. Somebody had a question before we go on to our question. Hormones affect people differently. I'll let you tackle that first. Hormones affect people differently.
Well, I think you and I are a great contrast of, I didn't go through any surgeries and I only did it for 5 years. I was taking Androforte gel, and so much lower doses than you, but I was so sensitive. I was getting, I think it has actually ruined my microbiome in my gut. I have all these digestive issues. When I detransitioned, my body was, I was just mentioning this before we went live. As I was detransitioning, I had this hay fever. And actually, my eyes are a little dry right now, but it was so intense for a couple of months, maybe up to 6 months. And then that went away. Other people can take testosterone as the injections. and they're fine for years and years or never have any negative symptoms. So yeah, this is an area that's so understudied, and the trans community seems to just want to pretend that everyone is the same and they're all going to have a perfectly fine, smooth experience and no issues.
Yeah. And I think eventually long-term use of any kind of synthetic hormones will lead to health problems because, we all have receptors and we all have, it's almost like filling up a glass with water. There's going to come a time where the glass is going to overspill. Everyone has that, ability to place water in that glass. Some people have a smaller glass, some people have a taller glass. When you reach the top, it's going to overspill. That's when you're going to have health issues, and
Mars, Upper Hand Mars, who's quite a well-known trans man. Yeah, he's had to stop taking tea, even though very much identifies as a man. I think he seems to be very happy as a man. He looks great as a man. Can't take it anymore because he's got some autoimmune issues cropping up, and that's my main stance on the whole thing. Is I want properly informed consent. I want more research, and I want safer options. I want long-term options for people who they've tried everything else and seem to prefer to just live as the opposite sex, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Before we went on, we were talking about function. What functionality does transitioning actually have? And I think very few people actually ask themselves that question. Is it just so you could sit in front of a mirror taking selfies and looking and admiring at yourself and getting told how beautiful you are, how handsome you are? What other function, do we have? Because we're animals. So let's like you were saying something before.
So you have to look at where we came from, and what we're in now is culture, and culture rapidly shifts. The beliefs we all hold now are not the ones we did 10, 15 years ago. And the further back in time you go, the more you'll see people's attitudes change. And it's not that people are ignorant, it's just standards change. So bringing it back to just the evolutionary perspective, women, our entire body revolves around reproduction. Whether you want to have kids or not, that's fine. But you have to be aware of your menstrual cycle, and you have to get pap smears, and you have to have all these different things, and you have all these different needs to a man. A man evolved to hunt and protect and build shelter. So he's obviously going to have a body built for that purpose, and that's fine. You can't expect a sports car to be a four-wheel drive or vice versa.
Yeah, that's putting it on the money. It's function. We would love to be. I would love to be 6 foot tall and have a girth of 20-inch arms, but my body just unless I take large amount of steroids and put my health at super duper risk, it's never going to happen. And
bone lengthening surgery on your legs.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, so a lot of bodybuilders are dying now because they're overstepping their humanity.
Yes.
They're trying to be like these beasts that the body just can't take, at all.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Well, I think we both got into transitioning from bodybuilding. I was so fixated on strength, always was as a kid. When I'm writing my memoir now, I'm just went, damn, I was always really, I started off as the biggest and strongest, and that was what I was praised for. And then I hit puberty, and it was suddenly, we're going to put you in skirts and heels and dresses and makeup. And well, hang on, but I was the athlete 5 minutes ago. And there's the Batman villain Bane. I just really liked a lot for some reason, and I kind of idolized that. But well, I mean, Bane is a fictional character first of all, and he's put on this super soldier serum. So even within a comic book, that's not what a human being is supposed to look like naturally. And yeah, it's a weird metaphor for my life, I guess. We are in I was mentioning this before, we're in a period of transhumanism. And you see this with plastic surgery, the Instagram kind of Kardashian look, the bodybuilders, the transgender people, we're all trying to escape what our bodies are made to be. And that is a really unhealthy, scary road to go down. Because once you start rejecting your body, I can speak to this personally, once you go down that pathway, you find everything about yourself disgusting. I got to a point that I became a robot. named Connor. And I mean, even eating or going to the toilet or having physical contact with another human being was just disgusting to me. And it feels like a distant memory now, but like a dream. But that's the state I got into because I transitioned.
Yeah, bizarre, right? I mean, that's the only word I could think of, but hey, I mean, I think, and we're going to get into deep questions in a little bit, but I think a lot of it, right, stems from childhood traumas and things of that nature. And then we try to replace these trauma with certain things so that we don't feel pain.
Yeah.
I think transitioning is almost like a numbing agent that we use, of some sort.
I think another metaphor is that everything is story. I always say that the human psyche revolves around story and narrative, and that is the most fundamental thing about being human, I would say. And so it's so easy when you transition that you're constructing this new identity, a new story for yourself, and that story can continue to just develop and get more complicated until you're so detached from reality that you will attack anyone who even threatens or questions that story that you've created. It's like they're pointing out plot holes. Oh, we can't have that. No, my story is flawless.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I wonder how many people actually were into, say, cosplay or something like that, and they would dress up as a character, and they would be entrenched in this other type of identity for the few hours that they were playing, and then they'd have to get out of character and go back to regular life, but then they would feel the tug to want to go back, and they wanted to live there. So I think there was this one trans woman that we interviewed. She has a radio show in San Francisco, was like a martial artist and was into film and got into the character so much in doing cosplay and things like that, that one day they just couldn't find a way out of the character because they immersed themselves so deep in, like an actor would say that they get, I think I remember Jim Carrey talking about how he got into some role and it took him like a year and a half to get out of it. Or Lady Gaga said that about certain roles. What do you think about it?
That's actually a really good point, and I never really made that connection, but I was always in these fantasy worlds. I loved cosplay. I was always assuming these roles, these characters, and a lot of them were male. And so I should mention, so I am a lesbian now, but at the time I was asexual, wasn't attracted to anyone, but now I have to wonder in hindsight, was it my way of exploring these masculine aspects, these gay aspects of me that I just wasn't aware of, didn't have the language for. And so, I don't know, dressing up as Benedict Cumberbatch or one of the Supernatural boys, that felt right. That felt real to me, more real than reality.
Definitely. So let me touch on this. Go ahead and read this one, then I'll read.
Oh, it says, no one in the media ever talks about people who can't take the medicines.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's all like here.
Well, before I transitioned, so when I was transitioning, it was the attitude was, oh, well, if you're trans, you have to go through these procedures. Before that, though, I'm told, it was a little bit more of, well, you can do it your own way. You don't have to transition, or your definition of transitioning can be different from another person's. Everyone's path is unique. And then it just got more and more medicalized, and no one talks about, well, these medications might not be for you. These surgeries might not be for you. I had chronic fatigue syndrome. I had autism. I should have, in an ideal world, had a doctor look at all those aspects, a holistic view of my health, and go, no, I don't think this is. You can cut your hair short, call yourself a boy, whatever, but maybe we shouldn't do these hormones. But I was sold on, you have to do this, and it seemed so amazing and such a perfect solution. It would give me everything I ever wanted. So yeah, of course, especially kids or anyone who wants to transition, they're laser focused on this. They need this. They feel that this will complete them. So they'll freak out when someone is gatekeeping. It's not gatekeeping, it's evaluation. It's moderation. It's exploring before throwing you into the deep end.
One of the things I've always said, and I've been at this since 2003, when there was hardly no one transitioning, I was on the circuit, documentaries, you name it. And one of the things that I've always known, that there is absolutely no objective testing that can prove without a shadow of a doubt that a person has gender dysphoria or is transgender. There's nothing. There's no, you go to the doctor and they run tests and they do all sorts of things to give you a diagnosis. This is self-reporting. And then they're giving you medication and doing procedures that are experimental.
I lied to my doctors. I just said what I had been told by Tumblr to say in order to secure my medications. But I think the only real way of knowing is time. And that's why children absolutely cannot transition. That shouldn't even be up for debate, and yet it is. It's only something you can know after many, many years. And I also think if you have not had sex, which was the case for me, you don't know your body enough, and you don't know your body in relation to other people in order to know who you are and what you want and all of that. So, yeah. I'm seeing a question. What function do I think transition had for me? Well, so we're saying off air that, we did say that again. It's hard to keep track. So yeah, the biological function of each, the male body and the female body. Right. And I wanted what the male body had, having grown up as this really athletic, tall kid, taller than all the other kids. That was my full height, 5'3", from a very young age. And so I wanted to keep that, and I wanted the strength of a man, and I wanted to be heard. I wanted to not be pressured into looking a certain way. And so I had that freedom. Honestly, it was, at the beginning, it was nice. I really felt like I was my true self, and I was comfortable, and I was free. And I identified as a trans medicalist, and I said, I'm one of the ones who really is trans, not the other ones. And, I'm definitely benefiting, and I'll always be trans. And I wasn't even mature enough to understand that I changed. Even though I had changed a lot in the years preceding that, I felt like, no, this is it. This is the real time. This is the real personality. Courtney 2.0. No.
Yeah, my whole concept with this, when I hear, and you said something earlier that, the kids, and obviously kids, to me, it's just a no-go. But I even question adults, because it's like, well, I was born in the wrong body. No, your body's fine. It's your thought process. The thought process is the problem. You've got a personality that may not match what you believe. Like you said, you wanted to be strong and you wanted to be like a man. We want these things because we're like, no, I don't like the cards that I was dealt, so I'm going to change them. God, you were totally wrong. I'm going to do things my way. So we take these.
Also, I wanted to touch on the kid thing again, is that gender therapists, they're treating children, and, they're talking to these parents as if they know that the psyche of a child is so well developed at the age of 4, at the age of 5 even. I remember my cousin and my other cousin were playing up on top of the roof of their apartment one day because they thought they were both Spider-Man and Superman. And my cousin jumped off the roof and broke his ankle. So kids think that they are Superman. They think that Santa Claus really, and I don't want to break it to anyone, but Santa Claus isn't real.
Shit.
But I know, I'm sorry. Kind of like
at that age, if you ask me, I'm going to grow up and be a Pokemon trainer, or I am a werewolf. I definitely will transform into a wolf. Stand back, watch me go. I did believe in these things because I am a child and I do not understand the difference between fantasy and reality.
It's beautiful to have that kind of, mind.
Right.
You know, it's plastic, it's developing, it's functioning, it's creative, it's in that mode of just being absorbing and all that. But the fact is that kids are being reaffirmed in their delusional thinking, basically, that if
I mean,
the
you
little
may as
boy,
well let your child run your household, you know, manage your income, enter politics. If we're listening to children and their decisions, that where is the line? If they're able to decide, actually, biology doesn't matter, and I'm just going to decide what gender, it's mad. How did we get here?
I know. And I believe that some adults are still children and they don't like the life that they were given. And so they're just going to change it and do with it as they please. And I'm nobody to tell anyone what to do. But, you know, it's like you're trading your life for this other life, thinking that this other life, the grass is always greener on the other side, is going to be so great. Great in what? I mean, you're going to have limited function because your body was created, if you were born a man, to do manly function. You know, some of these sports individuals that are competing against women have shoulders these big, forearms these big, but they want to be a girl. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I mean, you know, no one wants to hurt anybody's feelings, but we need to tell the emperor it has no clothes.
Yeah. And when did we forget about being a transvestite or being a drag queen or drag king? Why is that not fashionable anymore? Why can't we be androgynous? Why can't we dress however the hell we want? I know, kind of ironic coming from me, who is very much a girly girl now. I don't know. I think it's that rigid black white thinking. You're either a manly man or a girly girl.
Yeah. That's the neurodivergence, and that's what makes you creative, and that's what makes you live your life as art.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is just I'm much more confident. So yeah, I realize my looks get me a certain response, but I'm not this scared little girl who's like, oh, men don't look at me. Oh, you know, I don't want to be objectified. Now I'm an adult woman, and I realize, well, got it, flaunt it, own it. You know, I should be grateful of the gifts I have. And I wasn't grateful. I really wasn't grateful for the body I had. And I never say I have any regrets in life, but that is somewhat regrettable that I was just chasing something. Grass is green on this side, chasing something that I could never have.
Exactly.
And will never be.
That becomes addictive to a lot of people because transition becomes a project. So you have this list and you're like, I'm doing this. And from here, I'm going to go here and do this other surgery. And then I'm going to do this other surgery. The thing is, once you run out of all the things to do, then what do you do? Because you can't run away from your problems. You could mask them, you could put Band-Aids, but come the time you're going to run out of Band-Aids and the wounds are going to continue to fester.
I think the biggest issue we have right now is that we're in a society that's much more psychologically aware, but doesn't have any more access to mental health care than we did 30, 40 years ago. Somewhat related, but I love Star Trek. The original Star Trek didn't have a counselor on board, but by the time the 90s, late 80s, 90s rolled around, they had a counselor, Deanna Troi. She's a therapist. So people were becoming more and more aware of mental health and its importance. But, 30, 40 years later, we have not made these things more accessible. I have tried to get support over the years, and it's so hard or it's so expensive, and I'm not really getting what I need out of it. And that's actually why I turned to YouTube. I found just talking to people, a community, as our ancestors would have done. We used to live in these little tribes. And I've kind of got a little tribe that's formed around me on YouTube. And they're so wonderful and supportive and comforting. And I've made some really, really good friends. And so many of us, we have this technology, but we're so lonely and so isolated. And that's where it's all coming from. Oh, we have another question.
I think it's more of a comment. Courtney nailed it. We seem to concentrate on our perceived shortfalls instead of finding our unique gifts and exploring those. Exactly.
And again, that whole community aspect of now we're all competing online. I've got a friend, very talented artist, but he always feels like, I'm not getting as many subscribers or likes or all. Shut up. Just don't think about that. Because if we were just living in a little village together, you'd be the best artist. And you would be very happy and you would be very respected in your community. But we don't have that anymore. We just have the grind set. We have the 24/7, well, at least a 40-hour week. Everyone's just overworked. Everyone's overcompeting. When did we get to this stage? This is not how we evolved.
No.
I think back in like 2007 or 8, when people started flocking onto Facebook and they started seeing the lives of their friends from high school, their college friends, how everybody had like gotten to some degree of some kind of thing that they did. And if it was successful or if it was not successful, that kind of like created this angst in those that wanted what the other people had, or, there was this comparison that took place there that really changed the psyche of people. I don't think people understand that Facebook and their intention, and Twitter for that matter, their intention was to really pull a psychological evaluation on everybody, because it seems like we've all like changed because of it.
Yeah, we're not living in the same
world. It definitely does influence our actual psychology, the way we interact and what we value. And even I find myself sort of doom scrolling sometimes on Instagram. It's like, just go to bed. I'm trying to stay up, but no, just go to bed. Why are you on Instagram? But I decided when I detransitioned, especially when I started my YouTube channel, it's like, I'm going to take a leaf out of Mr. Rogers' book. What am I putting out there on the internet? I really just woke up and went, what is this content that I'm putting out? I want positivity. I want motivation. I want inspiration. I want people to maybe achieve some sense of stability or happiness that I feel like I have. So, yeah, I think the internet is a wonderful technology and it could be used for positivity, but we don't use it for that.
No, it's really, it's backfired, So, Bread, I guess there has another question.
Bread.
Bread says, can I ask Courtney, how did you come to the conclusions you came to? Was it through going to a therapist, journaling, hearing others? And it was in regards to like transitioning and realizing you needed to detransition. That was the second part of the question.
I can't answer that question, sorry, because I'm gluten intolerant. Sorry, Brad. No.
There you go.
So I've always been an overthinker. I think that's probably how I got into the situation I got into and deciding I needed to be trans. And I always feel like I'm not like other girls and I'm special and different in some way. Well, yes, you are, but that's just because you're neurodiverse. So calm down, kid. You're not the chosen one. And that's the other thing too. I've been thinking a lot about individualism versus collectivism. And now I'm more into collectivism and, well, what am I doing for my community? What can I put out into the world rather than what can the world do for me? And so I was just so up myself and I didn't care about anyone else. And I was always about, what's my life? What do I achieve? How do I live my... Those things will come in time. It doesn't matter. So I actually wasn't thinking about detransitioning when I did. My endocrinologist, I was mentioning this off air, I think she was being funded by Androthought because she wouldn't let me try any other alternate androgens, which may have helped my immune issues that were developing. And so I just went, okay, well, I'll stop taking those. I'll look into my other options, see if there's... actually, I was on the wait list for a sex health clinic. And that was about 6 months of waiting. And by the time they called me, I went, actually... No, I'm good. I don't think I need to do this anymore. And maybe everyone needs to do that if they're transitioning and they've been doing it for a while. Maybe just come off it and see how it affects you mentally and physically. Because, again, they don't tell you these hormones have a certain effect on your body and your mind. And I didn't realize how bad I had gotten and how delusional I had become. And then it was really waking up and going, I think I'm a robot? No. What is wrong with me?
Yeah, I tell you. And we're going to go ahead and dive into some of the questions we have. Courtney, tell us about your school experience. Did you make friends easily, or were you a loner? I usually really like to go deep.
Yes.
I was going to study to be a journalist, and I was really interested in the human mind. It's just something that I love, because I believe that if we learn about our traumas, if we learn about what makes us tick, we can evolve and self-actualize, which is important. We can like really help ourselves along instead of like adding more disorders, and creating.
If you tell yourself your true story, you're not embellishing on it. You can actually, it's actually, because I've been writing a lot lately, maybe I'm thinking in writing terms, but yeah, if you're writing a story and things aren't true to those characters or whatever, you'll inevitably get to a writer's block and you can't go any further because that story isn't true.
Yeah.
My childhood, so I was very popular in primary school, had no issues making friends, was a bit of a bully because I was the biggest and most powerful. And then when I was 11, on my 11th birthday, I got gastro. And I just had a really upset stomach for about a week. And then I just didn't seem to get better. And then I had all these psychological issues. They thought I had depression. They thought I had autism. And by the time I started high school when I was 13, I didn't make any friends. So my primary school was called Infant Jesus, which apparently is a weird name, but I grew up with it, so I don't know. And then I went to Chisholm, and I was only there for 3 years, and it was just a disaster. It was really difficult. The teachers actually harassed me more than the students. The students weren't really bullying me, except for Wolfgang. I remember you, Wolfgang. And yeah, the teachers just thought I was being belligerent and difficult on purpose. And I really just didn't understand what was going on at all. And there's a lot of times I'll have these memories come back, and I'll be able to see it from my perspective now and go, wow, I did not understand the subtext of that interaction at all. I really goofed on that.
Right. So overall, you were a happy kid growing up in school, except when you started getting sick, and then you started showing signs of. I wonder if your stomach issue created the neurodivergence, because everything is microbiome. Yeah. So if your microbiome is not right, it affects your thinking, and it creates all sorts of problems.
Don't they say that
nervous system?
Really,
that's your real brain. Yeah, that's where your real brain is. Not up
here. The stomach has as many neurons as the entire brain of a cat. So it's a very important part of the body. And back then, I was having all these gastrointestinal issues, and I went to doctor and said, "Oh, just take fiber supplements." No, that's the opposite of what I should be doing. Oh my God.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. A side note, I should make a video on diet in general, but human beings actually don't need fiber. There's a long history as to why there seems to be this push towards grains and fiber and a high plant diet. Yeah. It's about the Seventh-day Adventist Church and the American government, the food pyramid, Ansel Keys. It's a long story, and maybe I'll make my own video on that one day. But we are not connected to our bodies, not just transgender people, but I think everyone. We don't know what our ancestors, we've forgotten apparently, what our ancestors would have eaten, or the fact that we would have been bathing in cold water, or we would have been getting up at sunrise and going to bed at sunset, or getting up in the early hours to do other things in the dark. So a two-phase sleep cycle. Oh, that's ancestral living is what I'm all about now. And so what I realized is, yes, gut microbiome. I think that gastro did a number on me. Mm-hmm. Then I was really sensitive to a lot of foods, but I was still able to eat fairly normally. But I wasn't old enough to figure out, oh, maybe I should try to avoid this or try that. Somewhat related, but it occurs to me that when I was in primary school, our uniforms in winter were not very warm. There was a little jumper and that was it. Why did it never occur to me to put a jacket on? Why in all those years I would complain of being freezing? Why did I just not take another jacket to school? it's because I was a child, and children are dumb.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with my diet. It never occurred to me, stop eating sugar, stop eating bread. You would be, so yeah, suffered, and my mental state got worse and worse. And
it all gets affected by what you eat. You know, that's like we mentioned, that's our brain. And so it's interesting that all of a sudden you got a problem in your stomach, then you started having autistic symptoms and depression. And I mean, if you look at the world today, just about everybody has anxiety, depression, they're suicidal. You know, I mean, trans people think they have the cornerstone on that, but just about everybody is, you know?
Yeah, it's more a case of almost everyone has anxiety or depression nowadays, mostly because of modern living. And then a lot of these people are deciding to transition as a coping mechanism. So I think trans people aren't special in that way. It's just another way of dealing with very common problems these days.
Yeah.
And while I feel more anxious now, I think it's because I didn't feel any emotions at all, really. I just felt neutral, kind of, serene at all times. So no matter what was going on around me, it was just almost like I was on Valium all the time. Oh, that sucks. Oh man, that's terrible. And I just couldn't fully feel anything. I wasn't engaging with my reality. So now I'm feeling anxiety, but it's actually a good thing because my body's actually reacting to stimulus around me in a normal, sane way. But yes, I then got chronic fatigue syndrome because I got Barmer forest virus, which you get from mosquitoes, when it was probably about 2013, I was about 21. And that lasted for 18 months, and it wasn't too bad, although I'd never been that sick before. So to me, someone who was super productive, that was the end of the world. And then I transitioned, started bodybuilding because I did get better. But I think the Barmer forest fire or chronic fatigue actually pushed me towards that trans thinking because I hated my body. It was weak. I was trapped in bed all the time. It was preventing me from doing things I wanted to do. And then I slowly recovered and went, yeah, I've had a lot of time to think and reflect. What I decided is I'm actually a man. And primarily, really what I wanted was bodybuilding. I always, I looked at female bodybuilders and I thought that was really cool. But everyone around me was so disgusted. I remember watching some TV show with a mate of mine, a male friend, and when we were teenagers, and this thing about female bodybuilders came on, and I was sort of secretly admiring them. And then he went, oh, that's so disgusting. I went, oh, I guess that's not cool then. So, yeah, I guess those little comments here and there, they influence you. They absolutely do. And so I was ashamed to want to be a female bodybuilder. So then I decided, well, if I'm a man, then it's fine. No one can judge me.
Oh my God, are we sisters or another? Like that's the same thing happened to me. Because I had body issues and I started getting into bodybuilding. So then I started taking steroids and then I started changing my body. And all of a sudden I was like, my mind started to change. I started getting a little stubble and somebody said, hey, are you an FTM? I had never heard of that because I was bodybuilding. I was buff and I'm like, I could be a man.
Yeah.
Wow. And it was just
I didn't know it was an option. And then someone explained, oh, yeah, there's transgender. You know what transgender is? Little good Catholic girl didn't know any of these sorts of things. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, I had problems all my life because I was always very androgynous and I preferred the male things over the female things. Because we talked earlier that my mother took anti-miscarriage drugs to be able to have me, and that kind of whacked me out. But yeah, it's like, it's almost like, I like to say there's scripts. There's several scripts in the trans narrative, that we've, there's several. And
I think there's a lot to say about the fact that if this is something that's supposed to be a natural occurrence, why is it simply a first world problem? Why is this not a problem in Africa or the Aboriginals or anything like that? Because I mean,
I in my recent video I was trying to find any sort of statistical graph or sort of global map of where the concentrations of transsexuality are. Couldn't really find anything, but sort of anecdotally it seems United States, Australia, Canada, United States, Canada, what is that from? Animaniacs. Anyway, That's how my brain works. Sorry.
That's okay.
Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Western English-speaking countries who are exposed to a lot of the same media, which that media is mostly coming from America. We're all living in America. Ramstein was correct. Stop making pop culture references. I can't help it. God damn it. But yeah, and Brazil. Actually, Brazil, that's where and Thailand. So those are probably the two non-Western, primarily English-speaking countries. And they've got a whole different culture that led them to wanting, a lot of people there wanting to be trans. So yeah, I think it's primarily culture. We are all part of a system. We are social animals. And when the school of fish is going one direction, we will go that direction too.
Exactly. So Brett has another question. Brett hasn't allowed us to get going on our questions.
I know Brett has. Brett put a list together
I know.
The show started for you. Controversial question. How did you differentiate between being lesbian and trans when there is no study that being gay is biological or not?
Due
to mental health issues like being trans.
It's a good question. And again, there is no such thing as a bad question. I don't think it's wrong to have these discussions, because as someone who has newly learned that they are in fact a lesbian, I don't really want to be. I'm a little disappointed that's the cards I've been dealt, but I just got to learn to accept that. I was doing a lot of research into, well, what causes homosexuality? We see it in other animals, so it must have a biological function, right? Right now, we just don't know. But yeah, other animals do seem to show homosexuality. And I don't just mean when dogs mount each other. That's a dominance. But no, we see penguins and I think lioness and a few other animals where socially it makes more sense to band together, the women or females to band together. And then only when they need to reproduce do they go to males. Maybe the males of this species are just violent or unpredictable, or they are transitory, so they're migrating, whereas the female might stay in one place. There's lots of different reasons. But is that a choice? Is that a biological thing? No, it's hard to even know what animals are thinking or feeling. So, okay, no answers there. Amongst human beings, well, we see these behaviors throughout history. Sometimes it was persecuted. Sometimes it was just a natural part of culture. Okay, but why? Why do we do this? Shouldn't we all be made to reproduce? Is that not our main function? Why do I mentally have this thing that prevents me from reproducing? No, there's no studies and no science on it. Yeah. So, well, the question was, how do you differentiate between trans and gay? Well, one doesn't make you hate your body. That's definitely, trans comes with a price tag. It comes with procedures and technological solutions. Whereas being gay is simply an activity. It is what you're doing. And sure, there are sex toys that make the experience more exciting, but they're not necessary.
True. All right, so let's jump on some.
I think one of the things that I kind of latched onto was you talked about having time on your hands to think, idle time to ruminate.
Yes.
And it reminds me of Ellen Page when she transitioned to being, a trans guy, and said that during COVID, she was sitting at home and sequestered there and really just got into it and realized all of a sudden the light bulb came on.
Oh, yeah. Yep, exactly. Yeah. If you got too much time, human beings, they talk about this with prisoners in solitary confinement. It is one of the cruelest things you can do to a human being is to lock them away, remove them from normal interactions and going outside. And as the kids like to say, touch grass. And yeah, we are part of nature. And if you are not amongst nature, you will go insane. And yeah, Ellen Page, and I will still say Ellen Page, because I think this is just a cry for help. I do not see her as truly living her truth right now, I guess. I mean, you see these photo shoots, and this is how she poses it.
I know.
I'm so sad. It's like, I'm living my truth. Well, it looks so miserable.
I know. And what is living your authentic truth? I mean, if it's authentic, why do we have to like chop, remove, add a little salt and vinegar and, the hormones? I mean, that's not authenticity. I mean, it's just you're wanting to be something badly because of whatever reason. I totally believe that it's based on childhood trauma, mother-father wound, sibling rivalry, neurodivergence. There's a list a mile long that could lead us on this path. Sometimes a little combination of all the above.
I'm in this weird Venn diagram. I mean, I had a very happy, stable childhood, but things weren't so good towards the end. And when I was transitioning, my dad was actually having an affair. We didn't know that at the time, but we could tell there was something not right. And being asexual, never experiencing my body and sex, and just being afraid to even touch myself. A lot of trans girls, especially, are afraid. Someone referenced it. I'm trying to read and talk then.
I just kind of share the little highlights. Just little highlights, because I can't,
But a lot of these trans boys, so female to male, they have never touched themselves. They've never masturbated. They're disgusted by their own bodies. They're ashamed of their breasts. Yeah, you're a girl going through puberty. That is normal to be squeamish, and you're in this weird body that you don't recognize. And weirdly, I think transitioning did do me some good in terms of I was living some of my truth that I was ashamed to live before, to embrace being strong or butch or not being perfectly ladylike. And so now I'm kind of this combination of, on the inside, I always say I feel more like a boomer man because I go to all these car shows and I talk to men in their 40s and 50s. I talk to them all day, and I'm very much like them on the inside. But on the outside, I don't feel pressured to pretend to be something I'm not. I'm going to wear clothes that were made for me, that fit for me. And, I can be more than one thing at one time. Apparently, no one told me that. That's a beautiful
thing. That's a beautiful thing. We don't need to medicalize. We don't need to harm ourselves, make ourselves a lifelong medical patient to be able to explore different options. Cutting our hair short, letting it grow, adding some muscle, losing some muscle, playing with different outfits. It's part of art. And I think we are very creative as human beings. And so this whole trans thing really taps into a creative source that we have.
It's acting, it's costume, it is writing. You're kind of tapping into all these different creative mediums in your own body. And to some people, that's very appealing.
I thought it was interesting that back when the Danish Girl movie came out, and I think it was 2016 or something like that.
Definitely,
yeah. The Lily Alba character was an artist. His wife was an artist too, and they were artful, creative people. And the thing that got the guy to transition was because he all of a sudden became an art piece for his wife, and she drew him,
while he was wearing
a dress. And
that's a really good point.
His mind just kind of like there was some synapse in the brain that just fired at that point.
It was a spark,
and it like it ignited something. It was like some kind of a domino effect.
Carl Jung talks about we have an anima. We have both a male and a female side in all of us. And every man at some point in their life becomes acquainted with their female side, and they cross-dress, and they, and then now they're taking it further and they want to live as women. And it's very
not every man,
not every man, but a lot of them. them. You know, it's part of our nature of tapping into that. And now it's gone crazy. Now everybody wants to,
That's a really good point, and I didn't think of that before. But yeah, so artists, they say, are more inclined to mental illnesses. And something I've gotten into lately is shamanism. And, you know, some people sort of laugh at that, but
you know, I'm laughing not at you because I did that too. I'm like, are we related?
Yeah. From the other side of the planet.
Ayahuasca, is that next?
But yeah, so I realized, again, going to this ancestral living, and I've been thinking more about, well, how did my ancestors live and how were they happy and healthy? Shamans were a normal part of every tribe, no matter the Vikings or African tribes, Asian cultures, the entire continent there. You got shamans everywhere. And who were they and what were they doing for their society? Well, they had a really important job of entering what they call non-ordinary reality. And this is such a pivotal thing about the human brain that we've forgotten in this very secular, very logical society. You know, look, I'm a very logical woman. I look at the science. I'm always about the truth. I don't care about people's feelings or tribes or picking sides. I'm on the side of truth. But there is also non-ordinary reality, which is this layer above. And David Lynch is probably one of the more notable people in mainstream culture who kind of taps into that. So maybe have that in mind as I explain this. You go through your daily life and go to work and all that, and that's real, that's tangible. But human beings are spiritual. We're storytellers. We need something else to believe in. And now we're sort of replacing God with, as they say, television and Instagram and transitioning. Exactly. But what you really need is to give the shamanistic approach a go, that you are entering into that creative space, a space where all dreams and thoughts and feelings are equally real, and then step out of it. So you put it in its box, maybe you come home from work and you meditate and you get into that state and you explore all these Jungian, deep, unexplored feelings about yourself, and you make art and you tap into that, and then you put it in a box and you put it away. Now we're in a world where people are saying, well, I'm just going to have all the plastic surgery and I'm going to become an alien or a robot, that's non-ordinary reality. And I was living in it 24/7. You cannot do that.
Yeah, it's, I think Nietzsche, is his name right, said, Nietzsche is God dead? And I think that as society, we no longer believe in something higher. I think that has really destroyed, because mankind has always needed that relationship with God. Yep. It's something that's very important for our psyche, our development, our trust, our self-worth. All these things stem from having a deep belief in something higher than us.
Exactly.
And we lost that.
I think that the box that some people tap into is a version of a Pandora's box that they have locked up inside of them, that they really shouldn't open it. They really shouldn't live in that box, because what that box is going to bring to them is nothing that they would ever want. Although they want certain things, it's almost like they open Pandora's box and then it just won't close. No. In the sense of, like, when a person is contemplating transition and they're on the fence about it, but then they talk to people and those people say, well, this is one of the questions that Brett had, was, what does authentic mean to you guys, and the true self? Because have you guys seen an uptake in this being yourself thing? And I think that one of the biggest things that was pitched to me when I transitioned back in 2013 was the fact that I needed to be my authentic self. That was like critical, if you can't live your truth,
Yeah. And I'm wondering now, for a lot of these people, is it authentic truth, or is it being able to be your authentic self, let's say a butch lesbian? If she's a man, she can be her authentic self without the discrimination. It's like she's trying to escape from that. And I think
it is. And we're escaping from ourselves because we can't handle the shadow. We're afraid of that shadow. And Carl Jung speaks about the shadow a lot. And we really are too afraid to face our demons. You know,
yeah,
and we're
I think a lot of detransitioners go Jungian as well.
yeah. And it's important to be real. It's even if it hurts, we need to learn to really face the things that hurt us and not develop these fairy tales, these lies that are going to allow us to live life, because you're not even coping. Okay, you're like sweeping things under the rug.
That's why transphobia is basically punishable by death now, because they're in this fake little cocoon, their little trans, their little blue and pink cocoon, and anyone who sort of prods at it, oh my God, you're going to kill me! It's like, no, you're not going to die.
You're not. Trust me, you didn't die 50 years ago when now all of a sudden, because everybody, it's like, it's crazy. I don't understand what is happening to the psyche of humanity.
You're especially seeing it's not being a true self. It's making your own little cocoon, and non-binary is the other one. If you were to be your true self, you have to deal with a lot of vulnerability. You know, as a woman now who I'm embracing dressing feminine, because before it made me feel vulnerable. I'm not scared. I'm not vulnerable. In fact, a lot of guys are intimidated by me. I didn't realize that, but yes, I am using who I am to its best advantage and getting over those anxieties. But if you're gay and you're ashamed to be gay, then transitioning is a way of avoiding that pain. Or non-binary, non-binary is the dumbest shit, because it's just it's just like, I don't want to have to deal with sexism, so I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to change anything about how I appear, but I'm going to choose not to be a woman. What does that mean?
Yeah, because I get objectified, so I don't want to be a man, I don't want to be a woman, so I'm going to be something, and it's like Zed, Zing, Zang, and all these other labels and things that they create. It's crazy. Horny
men are not going to care about your gender orientation. They will want to have sex with you. Do you have a vagina? Then yes, what they need.
I don't know how either sexes can say anything with regards to being non-binary when they are binary. You know, it's like
sex is binary.
There's just they could
just say, "Oh, I just don't see it."
It's like we are being blinded by our own. It's the shadow. We can't face it, and until people learn to put their Prozac away, learn to put all their addictive things that numb themselves and face the pain. We got to face it. It's going to hurt like crazy. But until you learn to face that, you can't heal.
But I also think that there's a...
sorry. I was going to say, I wasn't feeling emotions for 15 or so years of my life, and now I'm feeling them. And I've gone through some shit. I mean, my house was broken into, my car, Ivy, was stolen. She came back. I was fired, and then I got my job back a few weeks after that. Oh my God, it's been a year. And I've been through this whole roller coaster. And even though I was feeling this almost physical pain from this stress and trauma, I never wanted it to stop, because I felt like, oh my God, I'm alive. I'm a human being for once. I am feeling. I'm supposed to feel.
Yeah. It's important, somebody tells you something you don't want to hear and it hurts and it triggers you, but it's like, thank you for telling me the truth. You cared enough to tell me that I'm the emperor without any clothes. I better go get some clothes on or I'm going to get drafted.
I've had friends disown me because I was honest, and I was honest with them about, well, you don't really pass, or, well, is this really what you want, or is this just a coping mechanism? And nowadays, what I'm realizing is we just don't have any conflict resolution skills. People just shut it down. You say something I don't like, you're out. Yeah. Well, maybe it was just a misunderstanding, a miscommunication. I'm totally, not totally against, but I'm not a big fan of privacy and secrecy in myself. And I don't live that way. I am all about, I am public, I am honest, I have nothing to be ashamed of. Because we create this concept of shame. Exactly. What is shame? What should we be ashamed about? Right. Well, I put it all out there, and I've never been ashamed about it. I talk about having sex with my car. I'm still not ashamed. I probably will never be ashamed because I'm just honest about, well, if I had kept my mechanophilia private, I think it would have grown into this shameful, unnatural obsession. Whereas I can step back and go, oh, I find it enjoyable. I can step back and go, the car isn't alive. The car doesn't love me. I can be rational because I'm talking to my community about it.
That's interesting you say that, because when we like hide things or topple things or can't speak or share about things, then it festers, and that's how neuroticism starts to kick in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about my issues, and now it's all out there, and I feel so free. I feel so liberated. Maybe it's not for everybody, but
maybe that's what people need to do, is to be real instead of like being canceled and Twitter canceling accounts and all sorts of stuff. People need to be allowed to be real and say what they think and feel. Now,
if you are annoyed by something, if something upsets you, you can talk about it. You can't shut other people down and go, well, that triggers me. But no, good. Okay, that's that part of it, that we're more vocal now. Great. But your locus of control is here, not out there. Exactly. So acknowledge that things make you uncomfortable. Acknowledge that some people piss you off. Tell it to their face. Yeah. But if you are honest and you love your friends and family, when you do have those conflicts, you can get over that. I've had some really intense arguments with my family, and I thought, oh God, is this the end? No, the next day we talk like nothing happened, because we have that comfort and trust within each other.
That's important.
And so who were you closer to, your mom or your dad?
Oh, I was definitely my mum's little doll that she would dress up, and
God. That's another thing we have in common. I'm like, oh, yeah, because I was like, from the moment I came out of my mother's womb, I was very butchy, and everybody would tell my mom, be careful, she's going to be a lesbian, because I was, like a little boy. And then my mom started having these dresses made for me and would make me wear these uncomfortable, itchy things that I hated with a passion. I've never liked feminine clothes, ever.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I was put in the, when I was a teen, entering my teen years, I'm traumatized from, suddenly they were buying me crop tops and low-rise jeans. I go, whoa, no. Yeah. And you're just going through puberty, and girls are putting weight on their hips because that's where it's supposed to be. So that's another thing too, is, gender is a social construct. And in the Y2K, 90s, early 2000s, it was all about showing off the muffin top. And for a teenage girl, that's horrifying. You don't want to look like that. And that's why I love 80s fashion. Well, anything sort of mid-century, probably 50s to about 80s. I think those clothes actually were made for a human woman to wear.
Yeah.
And when you're 11 and 12, you don't have that awareness or understanding of, you can dress vintage. You don't have to dress with the latest fashion. But yes, so prior to puberty, my dad and I were pretty close, and I was the tomboy, very outdoorsy and all that. And then I hit puberty, and he just didn't know what to do with me. You can deal with that, wife. And so I was then sort of the sole property of my mom, and so we would go shopping together, and she would dress me how she wanted, and I felt very restricted. And she always says, oh, well, I never forced you to do anything. But it's not, especially when you're dealing with kids, it's not, the idea of being forced to do something as an adult is very different to the idea of being forced to do something as a kid. Because as a kid, you have no agency, you have no control. And when your parents are kind of peer pressured, hell yeah, 80s rocked, yeah. When you're being peer pressured in these subtle ways to a kid, it magnifies it. And actually, I watched a new episode of The Simpsons recently, and because I've been going through it from the beginning, and I know The Simpsons gets bad at a certain point. And I was just curious. Okay, there's an episode called Lisa's Belly. I went, what the fuck? Okay, so I watched it, and the description freaked me out. Bart and Lisa take testosterone or steroids. What? Oh my God, what has happened on The Simpsons? No, they had some kind of bacterial infection, so they had to take testosterone, aka steroids. And it was really, really good in terms of gender stuff. So they both gained weight, and Bart was suddenly accepted by his bullies. Oh, Bart's all beefy now. Hell yeah, let's all start working out. Lisa, her mum, Marge, just says, "Oh, you're getting a little chunky," and then the word "chunky" just is writ large in her imagination, and it gets bigger and bigger in Lisa's head. And I was just like, "Whoa, this is so true. This is exactly." So my mum would say little things here and there that made me feel that, oh, I should wear makeup, or I should have done this with my hair. I used to straighten my hair every freaking day. I have beautiful curly hair. But at the time, straight hair was fashionable. That's like straight fringe.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wasn't appreciating what I had. And so that made me not comfortable in my own body. So yeah, my mum unintentionally was putting these insecurities in. She wasn't aware, and she obviously, from a different generation, doesn't think in these ways. But for a kid, it was very overwhelming, I guess.
Like, traumatizing is a word I use because my mother was the same with me. I was her firstborn, and she wanted me to be her mini her, you know, and I know she did the best she could, but the straightening of the hair and the painting of the hair at 10 years old and wearing all these outfits that she would make me wear.
I used to dye my hair red because she dyed her hair red.
Yes.
And
that's
now.
Oh my goodness.
That wasn't my choice. And,
I've got grace sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. So if someone would give a detailed character reference on you, what would they say?
I don't know.
I wanted to find, like I always like to make the interviews deep and
yeah, well, I guess I've got a lot of opinions on me lately, and I'm getting that feedback of she's very creative, very loyal, very honest, very hardworking. So I've got that. Manager skills, not so great. So don't put me in one of those positions. And I talk a lot. Sometimes I can be an advantage, sometimes maybe not so much.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Trying to think if there was, someone said something about Ellen Page, that she's non-binary or whatever. Well, again, it's just like she's really butch. As a lesbian, I just look at her and go, that's a hot butch lesbian. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, those are like the dinosaurs nowadays because there's no, like I remember the trend, the lesbian bars were being closed and all of a sudden there was no place to go and there was only the guy bars, and so we would go to the guy bars, and it's just I don't recognize society anymore. I've been in the LGBT communities or LGB before the T since I was 13. I was sneaking to bars at 16, and so things are so different, so very different.
I am entering this community, the what remains of the lesbian community now, and it's just, oh my god, this is dire, it's depressing. But again, I live in the 80s. I just watch nothing but 80s television and all that, and just go, this looks so cool, I want to go there. And do you know, well, I don't, you probably do, but the audience, I don't know if they're aware of the phrase stone butch lesbian. Yes. And these are lesbians who very masculine and aren't comfortable being touched while having sex. And it dawned on me, wait, that's just trans men now. The ones who are uncomfortable with intimacy or are very dominant and want to take charge and have the control. Trans men, most of them probably are just stone butch, and they just didn't know what that was.
I look at that restriction with a lot of trans people, trans women, trans men. You can do this, but you can't do that. And this is off limit. And no, read the instructions. And I'm thinking to myself, how can anybody be intimate with anybody like that? Wait, so I can't do that, but I can do this. And you're in the heat of the passion. And then oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm sorry. I mean,
oh my God.
It's like.
And then it really speaks to the fact that your authentic purpose, we go back to that again. Our authentic purpose of a male body like mine or a female body like yours, it's like the purpose is cut from realizing itself when cross-sex hormones are administered to either of us. You know, it's like my sex drive goes to the ground and falls apart, you know, I mean, and then my dysphoria makes me feel very uncomfortable. And that's what he was talking about with the regards to like, oh, you can't do this and I don't like that. And please, you know, because that's going to make me feel, and if you make me feel this way, and
it's
I
almost
react
like
that way,
it's
like,
very self obsessed. It is very much all about me and what I'm comfortable with, what I want to do, and you have to work around my issues. Well, what about the other person? There is there is no, I don't know, we're not making allowance or compensations, or there's no give and take. It's just all take. And I want special treatment. I need to be protected. Oh God, everyone needs to feel special and protected and comfortable. It's not just you.
It's a dance, you know, romancing is a dance. And no wonder that the majority of trans people are single, you know, because it's like, we're so
rare,
self,
you know, and all
self-consumed. I mean, it's like life doesn't revolve just around you as a person. I mean, the greatest joy in life is to be able to give. Yeah, that's the greatest joy, to be able to care.
I'm learning that now.
Yeah, and it's so much I could say. Let's see here.
We are just not focusing on community. We're not focusing on selflessness, and I think those are two super important things that we just don't have. So what's this question here?
Let's see. If only we understood back then that mom said these things because she wanted us to succeed. Society told her that, so she repeated it. Yeah, like I said, I love my mother to death. I can't blame her. She did the best she could. My grandmother taught her certain things that her mother taught, and it's like a vicious cycle, you know. And then
and I think I repaired my relationship with my mother recently when I just got out of my own ass and realized, looking at things from her perspective and realizing, well, she might not ever fully understand me. And look, I'm very weird. A lot of people won't ever fully understand me, but that doesn't make someone a bad person. The trans community had indoctrinated me into thinking, well, if someone even dares question you or doesn't get everything 100% right, they're bad and you should cut them out. God, good Lord, no. No, I have to make allowances. Yeah.
It's very toxic, and they don't understand what they're doing, that they're pushing society away. They're going to end up alone. They're going to, you know, life doesn't work that way.
And no one's perfect, and no one's ever going to know your specific standards that are just in your head, unless you do post a big long list of rules, which is weird. Don't do that.
You know, there was a documentary that was recently done in Israel about three trans teens, 2 FTMs, one MTF. So the FTM to be, the grandmother was worried about this, her daughter basically having her breasts removed in a mastectomy, right? And she was concerned about it, right? She's like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Because this is very, very important for you.
You'll need them for later.
Right? And then the counselor, the doctor, said, pulled her to the side after the conversation, said, I want to talk to you, and spoke to her later and said, look, either you could come along or you can leave.
How rude.
But we are not going to allow this kind of conversation to happen.
We can't have discussions. We can't have thoughts.
Only a cult. Only a cult that has programmed the doctors and just everybody around to think the same way and dare anybody question anything differently.
And then later, she came with a different different attitude like, well, completely. She's like, so how's he doing? And I love you so much. I just want you to be happy. And
killed her spirit.
Something I realized when I was transitioning was, and I wasn't a child, although I was developmentally delayed, so I was sort of more like a teenager, and all I wanted was pushback. I was testing boundaries as a teenager does. I wanted some grown-ups to act like fucking grown-ups, sorry about swearing,
okay.
and tell me no. Or, well, okay, you might feel that way, but let's explore that issue. Instead, it was, oh, you're trans. Okay, we'll believe you. Here's some drugs. And I mean, I liked that. That felt cool. Oh, yeah, I've got control and the grown-ups are listening to me. But at the same time, it's not really what I was going for. Teens need boundaries. And when they're saying stuff, they want someone to push back.
Yeah. Although this day and age, teens have no respect for adults. They don't like to hear the word no. And the word no is very important. No,
yes,
it saves you. You know, if you don't ever take the word no and you get your way all the time, you're not going to be a well-developed.
I mean, think about it, it's almost like pets also. If you never told your dog no, what is he going to do? He's going to piss and on everything. He's going to chew everything. And it's just, yeah. And human children are exactly the same. They need boundaries because we're all social animals, dogs and human children. And yeah, we need to learn, oh, what I'm doing affects other people. And the whole trans thing, from a young age, you're telling this child, oh, your actions don't matter, or they don't hurt other people. They're not upsetting your parents or your grandparents or your friends and family. No. You do what you want, and we will praise you. There is we don't use the word no in this house. Yeah. You are so special. And oh God, that Jazz Jennings.
Yes.
He hasn't turned into a narcissist. That kid actually seems like a really nice, compassionate, gentle boy. And I use the word boy because that's what he is. Yeah. He was just a gay boy who liked wearing dresses. His parents wanted a girl instead of a gay boy.
They wanted 2 girls and 2 boys. And because the twins had each other, Jared didn't have another brother, and they got close to the sister. And all of a sudden, it's like, boom, there we have it. Formula for disaster, you know, and the rest is history. I mean, it's pretty sad that we've allowed this to take place the way that it has without thinking ramification, without thinking long term. You know, there's a saying I always say, with every action, there's a reaction. And it just doesn't affect you as a human being. It affects generations of people. You know, that
well, you know, I've been detransitioning for a long time now. I've had all the tests and I seem to be fine. But yeah, I wonder the next generation of children who are born to detrans mothers, you know, am I dooming my children to issues that I don't even know yet? Because we just do not have the research on that.
No, there's nothing. This is all subjective, zero objective. There's absolutely, I don't think ever in history has there been such a thing that has taken the world by surprise, that has dominated everything without any
not satanic panic, not anorexia, not repressed memories. I mean, those were big, but not this.
Yeah, not this. This is going to go down in history as the biggest ever.
Yeah. Since, I don't know, was it Jim Crow laws, segregation laws? Probably up there in the whoopsie.
Yeah, up there. Whoopsie.
But, I was thinking, an idea I had before is lesbians have a PR problem. You know, a lot of trans men probably don't even know what a stone butch is, for example. You've got Queer Eye for the straight guy. Where is the dyke version? Where are the, you know, we lesbians will come over to your house, we'll fix your car, your motorbike, we'll fix any shit around your house. Where is that show? And yeah, I know it's commercial trash, but that's what reaches people. Pop culture is so influential. So if we had anyone other than Ellen DeGeneres and the other Ellen who isn't Ellen anymore, and now she's non-binary, whatever she wants to be, that's all we've got. Whereas, give me just, I don't know, Dykes on Bikes, like a documentary about a motorcycle gang of women. Hell yeah, count me in. I'd love to watch that.
I know. It's everything's been changed. I sometimes believe we've actually gone through a black hole, and this is a byproduct of being in a black hole, and we're not aware of what's happening. I mean,
it's like the Disney movie, The Black Hole, in which at the end of that film, they somehow end up in hell, and there's like a robot Satan or something. I don't remember, but that's what we're living in.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, people don't even know the half of it, but let's see.
Anyway,
says,
Brent here was asking, do I still have dysphoria symptoms? Yes, I do. So if I go off my diet or if I'm not feeling well physically, like honestly, if I have diarrhea, then suddenly I feel, oh no, I am wrong in this body, and I feel all cringy and yeah, it's just
it's human condition. Who feels right in their body? Who in this day and age will look in the mirror and go, I look awesome? Because even those that do look awesome, like the bodybuilders, because I bodybuild and I know a lot of bodybuilders. Oh, I could always add some more caps to the shoulders, and I need to get my biceps bigger. And there's always something wrong. You never.
When you start looking at your body like you're modding a car, then a car is a physical thing. It is a product, and you add more products. You buy things and you can swap them out, no issue. When you start treating your body like it is a commercial product like that, it's very dangerous because, again, social animals, we care about status and how we're perceived. And if we've manipulated our own brain into thinking we need to be at a certain level that is physically impossible to achieve, then you are going to feel inadequate.
Yeah, totally.
I think that this question kind of speaks to something I was going to say about non-binary and the future of what they want for the population. And I think it's that if they can get us to not be able to define what a man or a woman is, then they can actually desex all of us and give us a non-binary status. And then we can get like these little bionic parts that turn us into like
robots, transhumanism.
Transhuman agenda, Now, there is a really good essay, and I think it's Everyone is Sexy, but No One is Horny, or something like that. And it's this great essay on how modern media is especially showing men, superhero men with, the Captain America, super, like, Photoshop perfection. And yet these characters are not horny. They don't have sex. Those Marvel movies are the most asexual thing I've ever seen. And yet, I watch a lot of 80s movies. And I mean, these girls get their tits out all the time. These movies are so horny, and I love it. Because that's human nature. We have turned everything so sanitized. And even kids' media back in the day was a little bit PG. And now we don't even talk about sex. Sex doesn't exist. If you go further back in history, I mean, everyone was under the same roof. The kids knew that their parents were upstairs making more siblings for them. It was just normal. And so now we're so prudish. We're all about transitioning and getting fake genitals put on us. But what are we using those genitals for? Because they're not sexual.
Because they can't be used.
They can't be used.
Purposeless.
We're turning ourselves into robots, into mannequins. And I finally woke up because I was going further and further into this ideology of I'm just like Hal 9000 from Space Odyssey. I'm just a consciousness, and you can put me in any body, and this body's inferior. And no, you're human. You will only ever be human. You are not just the brain. You are everything. Yeah. And sex is such a crucial part of that. And I honestly think, and I need to do a video on this, asexuality is not a sexual orientation. It is a either physical or psychological condition. Because if you can't even masturbate, and I know some asexuals do, and that's another issue, but if you can't even touch your body, that's not good. And then if you're able to masturbate, but you don't even think about people when you do that, and you've never had any interest in other people, why is that? That's probably something worth exploring.
Isn't that kind of what they're trying to create in us? Desensitize us completely. With all the social media, we're less social. We're less apt to communicate and interact with people deeply, because you can't tell people anything without them getting upset. It's just like we are becoming robots. We are. Yeah.
I mean,
I'm desperately. I was going to say, I'm desperately trying to use technology in a positive way, because I think what we have here is just a reach exceeding its grasp. I absolutely think technology can be a beautiful thing. It can improve our world. It can fix all the problems with environment and stuff that okay, we created with technology, but you know, the internet, again, I want to put positivity out there, but I also want to connect with people. And that's why when it comes to my YouTube channel isn't huge, but I really want to take the time as much as I can to connect with these people, remember their names, remember their faces, and really form some friendships. And I have. And you just don't get that anymore because everyone's just trying 1 million subscribers, get that YouTube gold or silver plaque and all that sort of stuff. And we are community based. We need community as a species. We need our own communities.
Yeah, we're tribal. We need, that. And we've people don't trust each other. People don't like each other. You go driving, you're like, it's like a jungle out there because people, they just want to they don't slow down. And I'm like, they want to get into an accident. What's wrong with these people? It's like somebody gets in my way. I'm not going to speed up. I slow down. Go ahead, go, but people just, they want to hit you. They're angry. They're bitter. I don't understand what's happening in humanity. We have lost our humaneness.
And I've been trying to pinpoint when did it change, because I think the 20th century is fascinating. It's got its ups and downs, and I think the 50s was a time of great economic excess after World War II, or 2 world wars. There was a lot of stress and anxiety and loss, and the 50s was this boom, the baby boom, if you will. And then you had the Cultural Revolution of the 60s. And the 70s is sort of this transitional phase. You get into the 80s, and again, it is economic boom. It's very capitalist. And it was money. It was Coke. Everyone was high. There was neon everywhere. And then I think the 90s was the hangover. I think the 90s was people waking up and going, what the fuck? What? Mullets? Really? Day glow? Hypercolor? Okay. And then, the 90s was wearing down. And then I think 9/11 happened, and it was just, oh, no one trusts anyone. There's terrorism everywhere. We would oh my God. Have you watched 24 recently? 24, the show with bloody Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit. The most paranoid 2001 thing you could ever see. It is just turbo paranoia.
I was binging it for a while.
Yeah. You were going to say something earlier?
No, I was going to say, we're all about honest conversations, being real with each other. And I honestly could tell you from a personal standpoint, and being with him for 7 years, that our intimacy is nothing like what it was intended to be, because we believed in what we were told, and we thought we could achieve what we thought we were going to achieve. But amazing. In the process,
it's sold to us. I don't know why. I realized it couldn't happen. Why didn't I?
Right, it can't happen. Yeah. But the reality is that since we did what we did, now we can't experience the things that we're intended to experience in the bodies that we have, because we have altered our bodies to not be able to do those things anymore. So and that
breaks my heart. Now I know. I finally had an orgasm. It took me however many goddamn months or years, depending on finally, I've had one. Wow. I'm still. I've obviously got some issues. I'm still detransitioning, and things aren't quite right down there. But now I know the joys. I'm just it breaks my heart that there are so many people who can't experience that anymore, or will never know that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's because it's taken away the deepest core of who we are. It has destroyed everything. And when people say, "Well, I transition and everything's great and wonderful, and my life is," it's like you're in that haze, you're in that honeymoon, you're in this warped mirror, when you go to those funny farms, those carnivals,
the funhouse mirror.
Yeah, you don't know. You just have no clue, and you've lost so much in touch with who you are. They don't get it.
the thing that I was watching old videos of myself as Connor. Oh, I think I changed my name at that point, but I still look at him as Connor. And I just go, you don't really pass as male, although a lot of people thought I was. They had no idea. I was living in a share house with men. They had no idea. Okay. But I sort of cringed, not at what I was doing to myself, but what I was doing to people around me and how I must have confused people. They must have looked at me like, are you a boy? And I don't know how to talk to you or relate to you because, again, the whole trans movement is one of narcissism. It's putting the self above all things.
Yeah.
And yes, you should take care of yourself and your mental health care and what makes you happy. Cool. Yeah. But you are a piece in a bigger system. Like any ecosystem, if you take one of those pieces away, it collapses. And so that affected my family. That affected my friends. So I have a group of friends. We were so close. We had movie night every Sunday night. They don't talk to me anymore. And I mean, we all had our issues. It was a very difficult time. But I know I was partly, or if not mostly, to blame because of my stupid bullshit ideas. There was a question there. I didn't see that.
Oh, it wasn't a question. It was, I think, so it's the transition from 80s and the mullets, 90s, grunges were way easy.
Yeah.
The guys just grew out their bangs. I mean, back in time, like the 80s, a lot of the rockers that grew their hair, and you had the group Kiss that wore the makeup, but it was art in the making. Yeah,
I mean, there wasn't a question that Boy George was Boy George. I mean, it was like
David Bowie. Yeah, I mean, it was just, but people, it wasn't so political or Prince. I don't know what's going on, and this is just
politics got involved in sexuality, and it has been like that probably since the AIDS epidemic. That you aren't just your sexuality; you are making a political statement. And I don't know. They're at a point now where we've got the rad femmes and the lib femmes, and you got women choosing to be lesbian. Choosing. You can't choose your sexuality. They're choosing because men are the problem, so we must distance ourselves. No, that's not the answer to the problem. It's like if men are the problem, but you're attracted to men, maybe you want to, I don't know, look at men's issues, men's rights. Maybe there's some issues there. Are women really raising their boys in an equal way that allows them to feel comfortable and also to respect others? No, a lot of them aren't actually. So yeah, if something is a problem, you don't just detach yourself from that whole half of humanity. You should probably invest in them more and try to fix the problem from the inside.
Heal, because a lot of the problems that we're facing, it's either molestation, you grow up with a hostile alcoholic father like I did, all sorts of things that might have led you to choose the path, that you chose, because it's trauma, pain leads you to do so many things. And a lot of people cover up the pain, I haven't had any trauma, I hear people. And it's like, not that you remember, because you probably just tucked it away. But if you went deep
inside, reframed it, you might remember those things, but now you've made a new story where it's not actually what happened. So I'm more comfortable using the word trauma. I never used to use the word trauma before, but now I'm more comfortable in saying, yes, that really upset me, and I'm not okay, and it's okay to not be okay all the time, and to take your time to get over those things. So yeah, the burglary happened in February. We're in June now, and I'm still so paranoid. I every time I leave the house, I double and triple check all the locks. I hide my laptop. I have one of those steering wheel locks on my car, even when Ivy might have other issues that prevent her from being driven at that moment. Now, got to make sure it's on, because just in case. And so I know I'm acknowledging that I'm not okay, and that's helping me to move through it.
Yeah, it's a form of OCD, when you get vandalized, whether it's physically or your home gets invaded. I had an ex who really developed really bad OCD because they got broken in, and she would check the locks 3 and 4 times, making sure that, little things like that really affect you because you're invaded. Yeah.
One of the things that you guys were talking about earlier, and it reminded me of a conversation that you had with one of your rad femme friends. you were talking to her and she was saying something about her daughter, and then she mentioned her son, and then you said, but aren't you raising both of them?
Yeah.
And she goes, and she just got offended by you suggesting that the behavior of her son.
Yeah, because women treat boys differently than they treat their girls. And then they're responsible for how the boys behave. A lot of times the fathers are very involved. That's the thing. You know, parenting is a tag team approach. So if the parents aren't pulling through their roles the way they have to, then the kid's going to be imbalanced. I mean,
I'm glad my mother has raised two very good boys. They are, you know, I could never imagine them mistreating any women, and they're lovely with me, and that's because my mom wouldn't have tolerated that shit. If there was a time she thought that my youngest brother was maybe being a bit of an asshole to one of his girlfriends, she'd pull him right up. And we have a question: was your asexuality potentially an extension of not feeling, potentially not connecting with you? Absolutely. And I had this epiphany the other day, and it wasn't anything particularly profound. It's just, I am afraid of my body. It's a very simple sentence, and I played it in my head over and over. I am afraid of my body. Yeah, I mean, I'm accepting it now, but maybe that was where all this came from. I was afraid of what my body could do, of the feelings my body was having, and not allowing myself just to exist in my body. And I think that's the issue for a lot of transgender people. You are afraid of your body, and you don't like what it does, and you can't accept it
for what it does to other people, the way they look at you, you know, objectification. I think a lot of trans men transition because they didn't like being objectified. So if they removed these things, you know, I was sexually molested. I didn't like being touched. So, you know, get rid of them.
The thing is, though, I look at a lot of trans men, and a lot of them are very cute butch girls. I would date them. I think they're very cute, and I don't care if they don't have breasts. And I think heterosexual men probably think the same way. It's actually not that as much of a deterrent as you think.
Right. Yeah. So let's see here.
So in your bio, you say you had an autoimmune disorder. How did you get rid of it, and how did it affect your life?
Yeah. So we had the gastro at 11. At 21, I had chronic fatigue syndrome, palmar forest virus. Can't wait for 31. What has that got in store for me? Yeah. I went on the keto diet because I didn't realize I was taking testosterone. I was bodybuilding. I was feeling amazing. And I was pushing myself way too hard. I had all these different commissions going. I was sewing all day, late into the night, barely sleeping. And then I was exercising as well on top of that. And so I got just a cold. And I just did not get better. In fact, I was getting worse and worse and worse. And I was even having convulsions and paralysis. And it was the worst. I was in a wheelchair. Worst thing I've ever been through in my life. And yet I never once thought to stop taking testosterone. And my mother suggested it. And I just went, oh, that's bullshit. My doctors would have suggested that if that was the case. No, because my doctor wants to keep making money.
Exactly.
So I was a drug addict. I couldn't stop taking it because I thought, well, what happens if I stop and I'll turn into a girl again? I can't do that. And so at least I went keto. I went on the low carb diet, and that was sort of helping because the bodybuilding diet is just garbage. You know, the stuff you're supposed to eat when you're bulking. It's just
right.
So yeah, I went on keto, and that was doing me a lot of good, and I felt better. But I was still having these other issues in terms of I just didn't seem to be able to eat anymore. I was getting acid reflux, bloating constantly, which was probably just steroid belly, honestly. And I mean, I had the, what do you call it? Colonoscopy, endoscopy. Doctor's like, it's fine. I don't know what's, I'm taking testosterone, you idiots. Maybe tell me stop taking test. No, just prescribing more and more medication to deal with the symptoms. So I got to the point where I was sleeping all the time. The only thing I would really wake up to do is shower and eat. I'd eat 1 meal a day. I wasn't even intentionally fasting. I was just not well. I would eat a little bit of food. and I would just feel so ill for the rest of the day, and then wait till the next day and repeat it all over again. That was probably the worst phase of my life, and that's when my mental health really deteriorated and the whole robot thing started to happen. But I was listening to Joe Rogan, and he had, in pretty quick succession, Michaela Peterson and then Jordan Peterson. And they were talking about the carnivore diet and it helped with depression and arthritis. And at first I went, oh, that's insane. But what about fiber? What about vitamin C? What about all these things we've been told mattered? And I thought, well, look, I'm probably literally dying right now. I cannot eat. And I'm probably going to need to go to a hospital soon. So you know what? I'm going to order nothing but meat. And so the groceries arrived, and the guy delivering it said, do you have a dog or something? No, that's not me. Chicken hearts, livers, all of that. And it was amazing. First meal I just had some barbecued chicken hearts on a skewer. And I didn't feel bloated. I didn't suddenly have the acid reflux. My stomach wasn't protesting it. It was actually sitting in my stomach, and I was digesting it. What the hell? It was mind-blowing. And within a week, and I should make a video just on the carnivore diet, maybe after this. But yeah, I was able to get out of that wheelchair within a week. I wasn't physically strong enough to do a lot of walking, but I was able to walk. I was able to stand in the shower. It was a huge difference for me, and it was just like a miracle. And so I did more and more research and realizing, well, human beings are more like facultative carnivores. So that means that they're not obligate. They don't have to eat meat, but a facultative carnivore is someone who can eat plants to survive, but it's not crucial. An omnivore can live on both quite equally with no repercussions, like pigs, for example. Human beings, no, we do need meat, but you can mix that in with other things. And a lot of people assume, well, you're a carnivore, oh, you must hate anything that isn't. I am not that strict. I think if you can tolerate it, eat it. Why not? Life's too short. Have fun. I have some chocolate every now and then. I am human. Actually, I enjoy the taste of food now. I was indifferent to food. It was just about what nourishes my body, what I thought did. But now I'm actually enjoying it. And yeah, I'll have a little cheat here and there. And that's because, again, your body has these amazing senses to have these feelings, whether that's the nice flavor of whatever you've cooked, or having sex, or just feeling the comfort of another warm body next to you, whatever. We are not robots, but society wants us to be.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. We tried the carnivore for a while, and twice actually tried it, and it didn't really. I think it all depends where you're from. Like if you're from, like I'm from Cuba, she's from Puerto Rico, and you're used to certain like grains or like roots, like sweet potato and certain things. And I think we've got to like test what agrees with your body or not. I was a vegan for a long time, and I swore by it. And it was another programming. Then I was like, I finally figured like this is just like any other programming. They're trying to program us to eat Soylent Green.
Vegan's a cult, and it's not even good for the planet. It's not good for your health. But
you fall for it. Like you fall for everything else, and it's.
But I think vegans and trans people are sensitive. They are overthinkers. So they're coming at it from the right perspective. And I was pretty plant-based for a while because I thought it was the right thing. Yeah. And that's where that's the saddest thing is everyone involved in these cults.
Yeah.
They think they're doing the right thing, and they've just been misled. And that's the tragedy of it. But ancestral living and seasonal eating. So eating seasonal and local vegetables. That's where I stand on. And I grow my own tomatoes, so I only eat what I grow. Exactly. And I think that's the best way to live.
Yeah, because right now everything's genetically modified. Things are brought from another country. They're not in season. Your bio, gets totally messed up, and that messes up your thinking, and it's a vicious cycle. And then pharmaceuticals want to put all sorts of stuff in your head, stuff to help depression and anxiety. And it's like, change your diet, change your bio
Microbiome.
And things will change for you dramatically. Let's see, we got a few more here before let's pick up. Okay, so when you talked about in your bio about your psychological problems, what do you believe besides the microbiome got them started? Were you ever like faced with any kind of molestation, any kind of childhood trauma?
Happy childhood. One guy groped me when I was about 16. He was in the 501st, the Star Wars charity costume group that works for children. And I was involved, and I was what they call a wrangler. So I wasn't old enough to be one of the costume people, but I was just like, gee willikers, I am the new assistant, and I'm just And this one dude, Russell, I will name him, and we hung out a lot, and he was in his 40s and divorced many times, and you're a kid, so you don't think any of those things are suspicious. But real loner, and I didn't judge him because I don't judge people. And so he came over to my house one day, and was supposed to be working on costumes or whatever, and I was leaning down under my desk to plug in my laptop again. And I felt something tickling me behind. Is that my tag in my jeans? What's going on? And no, he had his finger in my butt crack. Okay. So I screamed at him, told him to leave, and never saw him again. And that's the only time anyone's ever physically molested me, I suppose you could say. Mostly it's verbal stuff of being called frigid or a cock tease or just general sexism, condescension, all that sort of stuff. The one that pisses me off the most is I was working at Kmart, and I was just talking to customers, being friendly as you do, and this older couple came in, and this woman was talking about how her credit card had been stolen recently. Oh yeah, that's like the time it happened to my friend, or one of my peers at WAAPA at the time. Neither here nor there, but the old man talked over and said, like, why do you girls always say like? I was like, whoa, that is the correct use of the word like, sir. But because I was only about, 21, I was just too shy to speak up and say it. But now I just go, these are all the things that now I would not tolerate. But they're the things that made me hate being a girl. Because all he saw was a girl, and she used the word like, and it just set him off, even though I used it correctly, and I don't use that word excessively.
It's interesting you say that's one of the things that made you hate being a girl. We as a society all of a sudden find these stereotypes that we believe are tagged to boys and girls. And if we don't like these stereotypes, or we don't like these certain things, then all of a sudden, well, I don't like this, so I'm going to be a boy, or I'm going to be a girl if you're born, vice versa. Like it's some sort of costume that you could just take and change.
Yeah,
and sex
I didn't
is
realize.
Not changeable,
I didn't know what chromosomes were before I transitioned. That's how ignorant I was. And then I realized, I've got XX chromosomes, and I'm trying to put testosterone. It's a square peg, round hole. My metabolism, every cell in my body is not made for testosterone, or it's made for a little bit, but not that much.
Yeah. So, let's see.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the trans climate these days, with ROGD and the extreme medicalization needed that they say that is required?
I think it's, in one way, trans medicalism is good in theory, because that is a scientific approach to a medical condition. And that is fundamentally what this is. It is a psychological condition, to be precise. But the fact that it is so mainstream now, that everyone's trans and everyone has very easy access to these things, they're prescribing things to kids before they've even seen a therapist. It's horrible. And yet at the same time, it seems to be society's hit its limit. We're getting more and more people who are waking up and going, no, enough is enough. How do we defend this? It is very much capitalism has gotten involved in what should have just been a psychological condition. And it was for decades. See, people did transition throughout the 20th century. It was very rare. There was a lot of therapy involved, and then people would go through that change. And, well, there's still regret back then. I found interviews with people back in 60s through to the 80s, and people say, oh, no, it wasn't for me. And then the trans community will say, oh, it's because society wasn't accepting back then. Maybe, maybe not. But I do think things were better back in the day when we didn't have a mental illness marketed, and I use that word, marketed, as a fashion statement.
Yeah.
And that's where it's not even to do with a mental illness anymore. You can't even, I've said gender dysphoria is a mental illness in some videos, and people told me off for that.
That's ridiculous.
But that's where it started from.
Gender identity disorder.
When there's a dysphoria, there is something off. Okay, because the body is okay. There's nothing wrong with the body. The body works 100%. Most trans women who were fathers, their sperm work okay. They had their kids, or vice versa. If you're a trans guy and you had kids prior, you were able to carry a child. They're still carrying children now with a beard and all that craziness. So the body's fine. There's nothing wrong with your body. So if there's a thinking problem, that means it's a mental disorder. Mental meaning it comes from the mind. You know, it's coming from the thought process.
And I don't know if it's, if not, I mean, it probably has changed. There were probably a lot of people who were just closeted transvestites, and they would dress up around the house, and that was all they needed. But now, and this is tapping into autogynephilia, for a lot of these, especially men, it's just a fetish. But now they're being convinced that, oh no, it's not just a fetish. It's not a thing that's just fun to do sometimes. No, it's your identity. And I mean, they are troublemakers, but at the same time, I do have some pity for some of these autogynephiles who have just been horribly misled and told that your feelings, these aren't just a fetish. They're not just a thing that you do in the bedroom. You can take that out into the streets, and this is your everyday thing. I mean, that's like me with mechanophilia. If I started having sex with anyone's car when the fancy took me, so you can't do that.
No, I don't think that would be too appropriate. I think they kind of lock you up or something, you know, probably. But yeah, I think it's gone to a point where we're trying to justify it. We're trying to make it all right. We're trying to market it, promote it, telling people that it's their feelings, and, you know, feelings matter. And it's like, they're
the most important. Trigger warnings.
Trigger
when that started showing up on Tumblr, you know, I was one of those Tumblr girls back in its prime, and people were saying, you know, content warning and trigger warning. And I didn't have the language to articulate why I thought it was bullshit, but now I can. It's the whole locus of control. If you are so upset by someone mentioning a topic, no matter what it is, and you can't handle it, and you don't have the ability to just stop looking, I think that's on you, buddy. That's not up to me. I never put any sort of warning on my videos. If I start talking about something that upsets you, hello, it's a mouse. You just click away onto a new tab. It's magical invention.
Or you have to look at yourself like, why is this upsetting you so much? Why is the house of cards falling apart when somebody questions? Like Matt Walsh just did a movie, What is a Woman? And boy, they like want to assassinate him.
I'm sorry, you have 30 seconds to conclude this interview, or it is over. It's like, whoa. Buddy.
Yeah, I'm like, people are supposed to be professionals. Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it,
we saw it.
The guy in particular, a sexologist, and he's clearly a gay man. So you think he'd be kind of critical of these things, or, you know, have a fairly, more fair perspective on it. He's just like, what is a woman? That's a really interesting question. It's someone with a pussy. It's not that hard, buddy.
I know. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, it's a trick question. It's not a trick question. What is a woman? A woman's a woman.
What is a woman?
What is it? It's like, it's like.
But when I was transitioning, I knew I had a mental illness, and people did ask me, if you had a cure for your brain, would you take it? Oh, absolutely. It's a shame I can only really feel happy this way. I said that back then. Yeah. And I was aspiring to be a man. I openly confessed I would like to be I'm not a man, but these are the things I want to be. And I know what a man is. I know what a man is in order to want to become it. So then you've got some trans women, obviously present company excluded, that say, no, I'm a woman. I was always a woman. No, you're a trans woman. What's wrong with being a trans woman? Be proud of being a trans woman. Because I think, if you have decided to go against culture and do these body modifications, good on you. Embrace that is the path that you have chosen.
Right.
Don't pretend that it never happened.
Yeah.
That
I've always been a woman, and it's like, no. I mean, what is so hard to believe true? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, and when you are living a lie, and we're seeing that now. I think this conversation all revolves around the truth. The current trans rights activist movement is all about, well, there is no man, there is no woman, and anyone is whatever gender they say they are. But that's why they're so upset and sensitive, because when reality comes crashing in, they get upset. It's like, no, you've made these choices, you've transitioned. Don't pretend you never did. That's a lie. You're lying to yourself, and there's lies about everyone else.
It's avoidance. It's a disorder that they can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
You can't tell an anorexic that they're dying, they're skinny. They'll have a connection fit, because they see a fat, person in the mirror. And it's just, I think these gender specialists need to really step up and talk truth.
They're enablers. I mean, I went to one, and she told me to embrace my android identity. Really? Not like pressing the red button under your desk going, let's take it to the funny farm. No, just be a robot. Fine.
Crazy stuff. So share your website here. Let me see how this one works. Make sure that it's
newly updated, looking all fresh.
Yes. There we go. And you've got the US by minute, and you've got
Prometheus.
Yeah. Yes. You've got
my photo shoot from The Fall, my favorite movie.
There you go. What else do we have here?
And then under all those tabs there, you'll see my podcast, my costumes, modeling, art, fiction. I've gotten into that a lot lately.
There you go. Oh, it went into the art. Under the Skin, and then your car. Charlie Watson and the Bumblebee.
It's my Transformers one. Got some Star Trek. So I used to be hugely into cosplay, and I was always cosplaying as male characters. And now, I didn't notice women at all. And now, girls are all I think about, and I'm much more interested in female characters. And
are these all your drawings as well?
These are all my drawings and paintings. Mostly traditional. Do a few digital things here and there. And that's that android there. So that's what I saw myself as in my head.
Wow.
So that.
And your therapist was going to accept you as that and embrace that.
Yeah, just be just a giant metal robot man. Yeah. Fine.
See, I really. Go ahead. I really think these therapists are harming people more than people even know. And it's going to come a time where all this is going to be revealed and all their licenses are going to be revoked. And I think
there's going to be a lot of documentaries about this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think my mechanophilia is directly the result of being led down this transhumanist path and not being corrected on that. And maybe it'll pass, but I mean, it's not really hurting anyone. There is some suggestion that HRT can change your sexual orientation. So maybe I was born a lesbian, maybe not. But, I was sick at such a crucial point in my development that when I hit puberty, that whatever my sexual orientation was going to be, I just didn't go through that.
Yeah. And you could also be experimenting right now. I mean, you're still exploring. You're still putting, feelers out because you were numb for so long that you're now becoming acquainted to your body. And becoming acquainted to your body, it would make sense that you would want to get acquainted with other bodies like yours.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I look at men and just go, but I was a man, and I see them as an extension of the self.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's probably quite hard for me to view them that. It would be nice, honestly. I would like to just call me old fashioned, but I like the idea of husband, wife, father, mother, raising kids,
children,
yeah. And there's nothing against same sex parents. It's just I've been weird for so long. I've had so many challenges for so long. Can I just have this one thing? Can I just make babies the old fashioned way?
Right. I hear you. So I don't think we have any further questions from the chatters.
I think that goes back to the whole concept of what your authentic purpose is for being here, and your authentic reason for existing, and your authentic version of your body that it was meant to experience experiences of that sexed body that it was created to be. And it's a beautiful thing when we can flow within that authenticity, because then that brings meaning and purpose to everything, and not just to us, but to everyone around us,
and generations to come,
and generations, potentially future generations to come, because of you, that we and that's just a beautiful thing.
That's one thing I always think about, is like how I wish that my life could have turned differently had I not taken the path, because I was a lesbian from the age of 13 till I transitioned at 38. So I never really had a normal moment in my life. That old joke about U-Haul, lesbians in U-Haul, because it's like constantly ever a revolving door. And, it's like, okay, I found the one, and you're all happy. And then it's like, next, and it's like never, and not saying that gay and lesbians don't have long-term relationships. There are that too. But, I found for myself, it was never a stable life. It was always one thing after the other, and heartache and breakups and drama. And it's like, sometimes you just want to like, gosh, how I wish my life could have been normal.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is I'm learning that now, is when you're gay, you are a part of an unusual lifestyle, and there is less stability. There is less normalcy. Nothing against these people. It's just society wasn't built for us. And I also should say, I am less keen on labels. So I say I'm a lesbian because I just want to say, okay, right now, this is what I'm feeling very strongly.
Yeah, that's why I say you're exploring.
And if I ever met a guy and I suddenly had feelings, maybe my hormones are still changing, I would never go, oh, well, I can't. I will turn this down because I have decided I'm a lesbian and I must commit. No, I think labels are sort of like the weather. Right now, it's a rainy day outside. Well, it's not going to be rainy. The sky will not identify as rainy forever. Tomorrow it's going to be a sunny day. So when I use labels, and this has always been the case, I use labels as a temporary descriptor. It is not your identity. It is just sort of a rough barometer of what you're experiencing, feeling at the moment. And that's another weird thing we're seeing with the whole trans, a million identities. It's just, I don't know if you're describing gender or the ambience of the room, or how you're feeling right now, or anything, but there's a comment I'm just reading there that hopefully we will be helping thousands with our experience. And I think we've all had a lot of regrettable experiences, a lot of trial and error in our past. And when I first detransitioned, I was devastated. So I'm an idiot. I've made a horrible, horrible mistake. I shouldn't have done that. But then I started thinking more collectivist. I went, no, I haven't ruined my life. I'm saving someone else's, maybe a lot of someone else's. And I need to look at life as kind of like the Borg. We're a collective. We're all in this together. And so my knowledge, my mistakes are going to help other people. I have to believe that. I'm not just screaming to the void.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important, it's important to realize that. It's important to realize that identities are fleeting. They're at the moment. We can't get married to something. That's why I said you might be experimenting, exploring. And if we look at life like that and not make sign the dotted line, and this is how you're going to be forever, because we change. We are constantly changing. Every cell in our bodies change every 7 years. boom,
Oh yeah,
new reset. So we don't know how we're going to think or be 7 years from now.
I think that may have emerged because of capitalism as well, where especially 20th century on, we enter this hyper-capitalist phase. The idea of permanence and products are eternal, and there's new models coming out, the fashion changes, but there's this weird idea of continuity and permanence. For example, Ford, Coke, whatever it is, it's just this company is eternal, will never change. And I think that psychology, speaking of before, there's a big freaking fair lane coming past. But human beings are not like that. We have decided we are a product that is eternal and immutable. We're not. We're more like, well, as Bruce Lee said, water. Be like water. If you are in a vase, you're this shape. And if you're in a pond, you're this shape. That is...
Yeah, when you get people from the LGBT that say, well, I've always been gay and always gay, I was born this way. It's like, well, the circumstances that led you to the life that you're leading right now could change. And all of a sudden, oh, no, I don't like, how do you know? Have you ever had an intimate relationship?
Because we're a discriminated minority. Yeah. And for a long time, people were saying, we just haven't met the right man or the right woman, and they will correct you. And there's been corrective therapies and all of that. Yeah. Well, then that makes you double down and be more aggressive. No, any dissenting opinion or contradiction. No, fuck off. I'm definitely gay, and I'm born this way. Well,
and they get mad.
That's an understandable reaction.
Yeah, yeah. And they call homophobia and this, and it's like, why can't people have a conversation? I've always been interested in learning, like, what made you this way? What happened to you that you all of a sudden had to go away from the default? Because everything has a default system, to want to do the other. That's going to be so much harder, because it's, God, it is. I'm telling you, I'm 50. I turn 58 at the end of the month, and my life has been hard. Sometimes I'm like, God, I'm tired. I really am. Can I go home now? It's like,
I know. I got freaking the female dating scene, the lesbian dating scene, and especially online. Just it's awful.
It's crazy. It's it's like normal. Please,
Yes, I get so much male attention. I gotta freaking beat him off with a fucking bat. But no, I'm not interested, and maybe one day I will be. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right. It'll be a lot easier, It'll be from an older person who's lived that life. Yeah, I have moments of bliss, moments of happiness. But I can't say that I never felt secure in a relationship, because you're like either cheating on you, things happen that it's just, and I don't like to speak badly, because then people start to say all sorts of stuff, because you can't speak truth without getting.
Before I got on this channel, I had some of my viewers saying, oh, Courtney, you can't go on their channel. Oh, have you heard the things they say? It's like, so you expect me to agree with everyone I ever talk to 100%?
I know.
And I haven't disagreed with you on anything, honestly. So I don't know.
I know. People make me out to be this monster,
Oh my God, stand back.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, I'm just real, and I'm passionate, and I speak from the heart, and I truly care,
And, it's interesting, though, that I anthropomorphize my car as female. She is definitely a she. But there are male machines and stuff that I am attracted to. And especially in movies and stuff, the robots with male voices I can find sexy. Like, Hal in 2001, I got some fantasies about Hal. Hell yeah. Male voice. Car, the night automated roving robot in Knight Rider. Very sexy to me. The second appearance, if anyone has seen that show. I don't know, man. Why? So there's a masculine quality, especially male voices, that I find very sexy. But I can't just jump over that little hurdle there to actual men. So I'm wondering if that shows I'm still detransitioning.
Still exploring. Yeah, you're exploring. And I think living is a life of exploration. It's like, that's what we're here to do, It's like, I always consider myself a truth seeker. We always did. And
absolutely,
trying to find out what religion, what is God, who is God, and I went from being agnostic to spiritualist to into shamanism and New Age and all sorts of stuff. And then I started going into Christianity, and then oh no, not Christianity. And at the end, you know, my personal opinion, I believe in God. I believe that Jesus died for our sins. I don't push my belief on anybody, but that's what gives me comfort. That's what I know, that in my heart, and in the end of the day, if I'm wrong, nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
But if there is,
I will respect anyone's perspective as long as they can respect mine. I'm not going to correct.
And we do, you know, we do. Yeah. We don't ever push any of our beliefs on anyone, you know.
Yeah,
our hope is that, you know, we pray for people that they find peace and love and happiness.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. I have one of my closest friends. She is Christian. Her family's all very Christian. And they have said they've prayed for me. And I, instead of getting offended, like, oh, I'm an atheist and fuck that. No, I thought that's really lovely because, and there's a book called The Power of Eight. And it's about the power of thought and positive intention. And so whether you believe in God or not, if people are thinking about you and they are praying for you, that is doing something that will actually make your life better in profound ways. This book is incredible. And I mean, I'm very open-minded. I don't claim to know the answers. There may be God out there. I may have pissed him off. I don't know. But if I'm open, then if I get to the pearly gates, I won't be so shocked. I'm just like, oh, that's a pleasant surprise.
There you go. Yeah. So we had Kim join us, and we're just about to end. Go ahead and read that.
I just signed on. I'm a halfway decent-looking straight female who always wished I had been born a guy. Kind of wish I had a lesbian tendencies, but no such luck.
Isn't that interesting? You know, everyone, the whole trans thing is trying to promote the not like other girls, and everyone else, they're just normal and boring. You're special. You're a trans person, and I think that is ignoring the fact that everyone's a little bit queer. Everyone, when they're having sex, of course they're thinking, what would it be like if I had a dick right now? You know, or if I had a vagina, or whatever it is. And what if I had tentacles? You know, everyone gets weird and kinky sometimes. When you got the hormones going, your brain goes.
Exactly.
And I think it's totally fine to kind of feel a bit sexy, imagining yourself as something else. We're human beings. We have imaginations for days. And that's amazing, and that should be embraced. But again, it comes all back to non-ordinary reality and ordinary reality. Right. A healthy person knows those are two separate worlds, but you can have fun in both of them.
Exactly, and that's the key, knowing reality. And I think where we're at right now, we've lost touch with that in ways that I don't think we've ever.
Yeah. It is. I can speak from personal experience. It is fucking terrifying when you are so detached. Like, you can communicate the issue. Oh, I think I'm a robot and I would like to be addressed as such by friends and family, and they're all sort of side-eyeing me going, okay, what's this new bullshit you're on now?
What is it now?
Claudia, never done it. And I didn't even get to the car sex point. So I think my poor mother, she's been through some shit. I think when I told her, oh, by the way, I'm a mechanophile, she went, okay.
I don't want to hear it. She's fine.
As long as you're not taking experimental hormones, fine.
Or oil.
Yeah. You know, when I have a sub, it's safe sex, right? The safest car you can. Yeah. But or a Volvo. Volvo is very safe. When I was in that delusional state, you are able to speak calmly and rationally. And there was this neuroscientist. He wrote all these books. There was the man who mistook his wife for a hat or whatever. He talked about all these cognitive delusions, and all these patients he talked to. Oliver Sacks, rest in peace. Great guy, really compassionate. And he noticed that you could have a very calm, rational conversation with these people. But then when you got to this one subject of whether one's wife was in fact a wife or a hat, or if there is a staircase here or not, or whatever it is, it's just that one barrier. It's this one thing that the brain has just gone, No, we're not going to talk about that. It's fine.
It just kicks it out. It's just like trigger, meltdown. Can't talk about it.
Yeah. And we have really let down a whole generation of people, therapists in particular. I, in theory, support the idea of therapy. I do think it's very important to talk, and a lot of people are alone. They don't have a community to support them. They feel comfortable talking about these issues. But yeah, therapists have an important job in society. Problem is when you are not being rational. I'm not even talking about scientific, because it's very hard to be scientific and quantitative about that which cannot be quantified. But just being rational, using a little bit of fucking common sense.
Yeah.
It was, someone was asking what was the therapist's name that let me be a robot? Suzanne Calver of Kilver. Tilver, I think was the name. It was a combination of the two therapists who had the business. So I'm not saying you should send them a lot of bad reviews on Google, but I'm also saying I won't stop you.
Yeah, it's like a lot of these gender so-called specialists, they are sexologists, they were some sort of minor therapists, they took a weekend course, and now they're gender specialists. There is no true science behind this. Even the doctors that perform surgeries they didn't go to school to perform these surgeries. They were a gynecologist or urologist, just regular doctors they got taken under their wing and they got taught certain things, but there's not a true science behind it. They're learning as they go along. It's like, oops, I think we made a mistake.
Yeah. They almost remind me of the teachers when I was in primary school teaching us the food pyramid that says, the bottom of the pyramid should be eating all these refined carbohydrates. And clearly that's not true. But the teachers were just, here's a pamphlet, teach it to your kids. I'm pretty sure that's the same thing with the whole trans therapy is, well, you got to say this and you can't say that. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead, practice this. Great idea.
Do you think, with your inside knowledge of, the whole concept of transhumanism and robotic minds and all that, do you think, because I've noticed it, we've noticed it with this current generation, this younger generation, Gen Y, I think, there's like the way that they think, it's like, it almost feels artificial, like artificial intelligence is speaking through them. I don't know if it's because of social media or what it is, but like when you asked a question to a kid, I think it was like at Walmart or something, and then they just kind of like looked like a deer in the headlights and then just kind of blanked out, went to the blue screen of death and then rebooted. And I think they literally said, I have to reboot or something.
Oh my God. Yeah. A slightly twisted female, great channel, Brittany. She brought she snuck in, well, she had a phone on it, but she was recording the audio of this meeting she had at school, high school students. And it was about what high school students felt that the adults and the staff and the parents could do to be more accepting and inclusive. And it was a bunch of gubbins. It was complete bullshit. And these kids so anyway, and they're just so fucking anxious and awkward and talking in sort of leet speaking in sort of internet slang. I don't know if they say leet speaking. I'm an old woman. I don't know. In internet years. But yeah, the way they were interacting was very awkward. And no wonder these kids hate their own bodies. They're usually online. That's how they do primarily. That's how they do all their social interaction, which is a totally different structure to in-person conversation. I think there are a lot of people who are probably being diagnosed with ADHD and autism that don't actually have those. I think those things are real, but I think there's a lot of kids who are just socially anxious and lack social skills, and it compounds the issue that your phone facilitates communication in a non-verbal or in a non-physical way, and a non-verbal, I guess. And then you get into the real world and you go, oh, suddenly I don't know how to talk to people, but I can text away for hours. Well, yeah, it's because you've missed a crucial part of that equation there.
Parts of your brain are being ignored and parts of your brain are being hypersensitively developed because of the use of these gadgets. And God only knows, I mean, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy nut here, but being on these things all the time, what is doing to the brainwave in our brains.
I mean, blue light coming from these screens. You know, I use blue blocking glasses. I didn't think I had a problem falling asleep. Oh my God, I did. Blue blocking glasses, they block out all that blue spectrum at night because, well, there's no, like the sky during the day is blue. That's when you're supposed to get blue light. Not at nighttime. That's never happened in the course of our history. So if you block out the blue light, you will have a normal circadian rhythm. A lot of these people, especially this younger generation, are not sleeping correctly, which leads to health issues. They're not eating correctly. We are not connected to our body. I guess we're coming back to this issue. We're not using our bodies. And that's all we are. We were supposed to hunt and gather and build and cook and clean and raise children and manufacture all our tools and what have you.
A normal life.
Now we sit in front of a screen, and even, you know, a lot of my creative things, unfortunately, when you're recording a podcast or when you're editing a video or writing a novel, it's a lot of typing in front of a screen or all that. So I realize that I'm doing that. So what do? Well, I open every window, I get a lot of natural light, and I go for walks. A lot of people don't even do that. A lot of people go to work in an office building where they might be subterranean, so they're not even seeing natural light. Then they go home when the sun set. Well, then what are you going crazy?
Yeah. And that's the state of the world today, you know?
Yeah.
It's not gender. Gender's not the problem.
Yes.
Yeah. Gender's definitely not the problem.
And now technology is everywhere, and technology is seductive. And hey, I'm a mechanophile, so I get it. Technology can be sexy. But the idea that we can put the intel inside us and we can, you know, instead of getting off your fat fucking ass and going for a walk, why don't you just put your brain in a machine and then you don't have to worry about it? That's what we're at, you know.
That's what Meta wants to do.
I mean, diabetes, cholesterol, there's so many illnesses that can just be changed through diet and lifestyle changes. But what do doctors do? Here's some insulin. No, the problem is the insulin. Why are you prescribing insulin? Oh my God. Yeah. So they immediately want to use technology. You know, but because people say, oh, it's too hard and I don't want to change, but I like eating shit food.
Tough, you know, you got to change. Takes 2 weeks to change a habit, you know. You just got to, you got to have that adult speak over the child.
Yes. You know? I think that, and we're all freaking man children. We're all really immature. We're all like, but it's comfortable and I like it. Okay. Well, you're not a toddler. You're a 30, 40-year-old man or woman. You have to buckle up and, you know, take some responsible action here. You know, and one of my brothers, very depressed, but it's because he doesn't do anything to look after himself. He spends all his free time in a dark room playing video games.
That's a killer.
Yeah, it's killing him.
Yeah, a video game.
He said, I'm miserable. There's no point. I'm pathetic. He has no self-esteem. I'm just like, but if you make those lifestyle changes, your brain will feel better. And a lot of people, you cannot get through to them that the brain feeds into the body feeds into the brain, not the other way around.
That's why this whole gender's between your ears and, you know, it's just like, no, I'm sorry, but no. Anyway.
I have just been so much happier when I just had that epiphany of, oh yeah, I am my body, you fucking moron, you dumbass, you are. And I started treating my body as if it was, you know, me, which it is and was the whole time. I feel so much. I can't even begin to describe the difference. But you don't realize how sick you are when you're in that state. I mean, I was in a wheelchair for God's sake, and I just accepted my reality, and I just gave up on a future, on anything. And yeah, now I actually have hopes and dreams and joy in my life.
That's beautiful. Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean we could
We've been running as long as an Avengers movie at this point.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm telling you. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to say before you go?
Stay excellent. Stay excellent to each other. That's the important part.
Exactly.
Get outside your own head. If you're feeling anxious, you're feeling depressed, just stop thinking about yourself, actually.
Yeah.
Start thinking about other people. Get more involved in your community. See what, you know what? I got involved with a photo walk recently. So it was this free-for-all kind of event, open to anyone, for amateur photographers. They had models there. We walked through Fremantle, a really nice little harbour suburb, town, whatever you call it, around here. And it was so much fun, and I made all these friends. So I think, stop thinking about yourself. Stop sitting in a room ruminating about your issues. Go outside. Look on Facebook events. See what's in your area. Go to a movie screening. Go to a club. Whatever it is. Get out there. Yeah. Carpe diem, friends.
Yeah, nature. Nature is very healing and very important.
Go for a walk in nature, yeah. You would not believe. I mean, I assume it's this way in most cities, but there are so many beautiful public gardens and nature trails that I didn't even know about. I didn't bother to look into it. But yeah, if you even just spend maybe half an hour a day in your backyard, in your garden, you will feel better. I swear it.
Definitely. Getting your hands in the dirt, walking barefoot in the grass, all sorts of things like that.
Except here in Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona, it's so hot. It's like this weekend, I think it's 115 or 116. And it's not even the heart of summer yet. It's just like, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we get up there, although actually this last summer wasn't too bad. But yeah, so 40 degrees is like 100, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we get on the 116, 120s. And it's only June. So I'm like, oh, no, crazy stuff. But hey, beats the cold. I don't like cold weather.
Yeah.
I want to take this time to thank you, Courtney. Like I said, I think you're a very interesting woman. And I've been following you for a while, your YouTube videos and your Instagram, and keep up the good work, keep the creative aspect of you, and keep exploring who you are. I think when we stop exploring, that's when we die. So we have to continue.
Exactly. Yeah. We are not static things. We're constantly changing. And
ever changing.
Yeah. Oh, and thank you to Tracy for watching.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Tracy, Red, Kim, Katie, and all the ones that joined us today. Thank you so much. All right, guys, remember to subscribe, hit that notification button, share away. These conversations are very important just to educate people, just to get the conversation going, because it's important to talk. All right, guys, love you. But remember to always love yourselves too. Bye-bye.
Alrighty, that was excellent.